This question I am powerless to answer. These are secrets of God's omnipotence, which it does not appertain to me to penetrate. All that I know is that I tell the truth, and I shall never believe that any soul who does not possess this certainty has ever been really united to God." Close quote. The kinds of truth communicable in mystical ways, whether these be sensible or supersensible, are various. Some of them relate to this world, visions of the future, the reading of hearts, the sudden understanding of texts, the knowledge of distant events, for example. But the most important revelations are theological or metaphysical. Quote, "Saint Ignatius confessed one day to Father Lainez that a single hour of meditation at Manresa had taught him more truths about heavenly things than all the teachings of all the doctors put together could have taught him. One day in Orison, on the steps of the choir of the Dominican Church, he saw in a distinct manner the plan of divine wisdom in the creation of the world. On another occasion, during a procession, his spirit was ravished in God, and it was given him to contemplate, in a form and images fitted to the weak understanding of a dweller on the earth, the deep mystery of the Holy Trinity. This last vision flooded his heart with such sweetness that the mere memory of it in after times made him shed abundant tears." Close quote. Footnote: Bartoli Michel. Others have had illuminations about the created world. Jacob Bemi, for instance. At the age of 25, he was, quote, "surrounded by the divine light, and replenished with the heavenly knowledge, insomuch as going abroad into the fields to a green, at Gorlitz, he there sat down, and viewing the herbs and grass of the field, in his inward light he saw into their essences, use, and properties, which was discovered to him by their lineaments, figures, and signatures." Close quote. Of a later period of experience he writes, quote, "In 1/4 of an hour I saw and knew more than if I had been many years together at an university. For I saw and knew the being of all things, the bis and the abyss, and the eternal generation of the Holy Trinity, the descent and original of the world and of all creatures through their divine wisdom. I knew and saw in myself all the three worlds, the external and visible world being of a procreation or extern birth from both the internal and spiritual worlds. And I saw and knew the whole working essence, in the evil and in the good, and the mutual original and existence, and likewise how the fruitful bearing womb of eternity brought forth. So that I did not only greatly wonder at it, but did also exceedingly rejoice, albeit I could very hardly apprehend the same in my external man, and set it down with a pen. For I had a thorough view of the universe as in a chaos, wherein all things are couched and wrapped up, but it was impossible for me to explicate the same." Close quote. So George Fox, quote, "I was come up to the state of Adam in which he was before he fell. The creation was opened to me, and it was showed me how all things had their names given to them, according to their nature and virtue. I was at a stand in my mind whether I should practice physic for the good of mankind, seeing the nature and virtues of the creatures were so opened to me by the Lord." Close quote. Contemporary clairvoyance abounds in similar revelations. Andrew Jackson Davis's cosmogonies, for example, or certain experiences related in the delectable Reminiscences and Memories of Henry Thomas Butterworth. End footnote. Similarly with Saint Teresa. She writes, quote, "One day, being in Orison, it was granted me to perceive in one instant how all things are seen and contained in God. I did not perceive them in their proper form, and nevertheless the view I had of them was of a sovereign clearness, and has remained vividly impressed upon my soul, It is one of the most signal of all the graces which the Lord has granted me. The view was so subtle and delicate that the understanding cannot grasp it." Close quote. She goes on to tell how it was as if the deity were an enormous and sovereignly limpid diamond, in which all our actions were contained in such a way that their full sinfulness appeared evident as never before. On another day, she relates, while she was reciting the Athanasian Creed, quote, "Our Lord made me comprehend in what way it is that one God can be in three persons. He made me see it so clearly that I remained as extremely surprised as I was comforted. And now, when I think of the Holy Trinity, or hear it spoken of, I understand how the three adorable persons form only one God, and I experience an unspeakable happiness." Close quote. On still another occasion, it was given to Saint Teresa to see and understand in what wise the Mother of God had been assumed into her place in heaven. The deliciousness of some of these states seems to be beyond anything known in ordinary consciousness. It evidently involves organic sensibilities, for it is spoken of as something too extreme to be borne, and as verging on bodily pain. Footnote: Saint Teresa discriminates between pain in which the body has a part and pure spiritual pain. As for the bodily part in these celestial joys, she speaks of it as penetrating to the marrow of the bones, whilst earthly pleasures affect only the surface of the senses. She adds, "I think that this is a just description, and I cannot make it better." End footnote. But it is too subtle and piercing a delight for ordinary words to denote. God's touches, the wounds of his spear, references to ebriety and to the nuptial union have to figure in the phraseology by which it is shadowed forth. Intellect and senses both swoon away in these highest states of ecstasy. Says Saint Teresa, quote, "If our understanding comprehends, it is in a mode which remains unknown to it, for it can understand nothing of what it comprehends. For my own part, I do not believe that it does comprehend, because, as I said, it does not understand itself to do so. I confess that it is all a mystery in which I am lost." Close quote. In the condition called raptus, or ravishment by theologians, breathing and circulation are so depressed that it is a question among the doctors whether the soul be or be not temporarily dissevered from the body. One must read Saint Teresa's descriptions and the very exact distinctions which she makes to persuade oneself that one is dealing not with imaginary experiences, but with phenomena which, however rare, follow perfectly definite psychological types. To the medical mind, these ecstasies signify nothing but suggested and imitated hypnoid states, on an intellectual basis of superstition, and a corporeal one of degeneration and hysteria. Undoubtedly, these pathological conditions have existed in many and possibly in all the cases, but that fact tells us nothing about the value for knowledge of the consciousness which they induce. To pass a spiritual judgment upon these states, we must not content ourselves with superficial medical talk, but inquire into their fruits for life. Their fruits appear to have been various. Stupefaction, for one thing, seems not to have been altogether absent as a result. You may remember the helplessness in the kitchen and schoolroom of poor Margaret Mary Alacoque. Many other ecstatics would have perished but for the care taken of them by admiring followers. The other-worldliness encouraged by the mystical consciousness makes this over-abstraction from practical life peculiarly liable to befall mystics in whom the character is naturally passive and the intellect feeble. But in natively strong minds and characters we find quite opposite results. The Spanish mystics, who carried the habit of ecstasy as far as it